Now, what we want to look at first is under views, under layouts, you have this application.html file. What is this application.html file? This is the main layout file for our entire application, basically. All of the views that show up, all of the pages, for example, our home page, which currently has just hello world written on it, all of them get displayed in this yield section of the application.html.erb file, right? So any file you have under views will be displayed in this yield section. So basically all of your files, all of your templates will be wrapped by this file, right? So what do we mean by that? So let's go ahead and start the Rails server. And then okay, our code's running, so let's check this out. Now this is the home page, so let's go ahead and reload this. Okay, there you go. It says hello world, right? That's the home page. That's the home.html.erb page. Now in the application, and we're saying that it's rendering in this yield section. If I put in an h1 tag here and say first hello Rails, this is going to show up on top of the home page, okay? So if you go back to the app, and if you reload this page, there you go. You see how first hello Rails and then the hello world showed up? So that is happening because this file is wrapping any other file underneath it in views. So in this case, it happens to be the home.html.erb file. All right, so now what is .erb? We've been working with this for a while now in our blog app, and here we seem to use .erb for all our views. ERB is embedded Ruby, and it's one of the options you have for using as a template for views in Rails. Another popular one is Haml, but we'll stick to ERB for this course. ERB is very easy to use, and you can basically just type in pure HTML when you need to and incorporate Ruby code in it by putting it between two special symbols, right? So you're basically embedding the Ruby in it. So what are these two symbols? It's this left arrow %sign. Whenever you put that, you're basically saying that you're starting your Ruby code, and then you put a %sign and right arrow to close it, okay? And anything in between can be Ruby code. Now here, this equals, this basically means execute the Ruby code inside and then render the output, okay? If you don't have an equals over here, just means execute the Ruby code inside. So for example, if you had an if condition or if you had a loop, then you would not have this equal sign over here. All right. So let's go ahead and get started with building the navigation. And we're going to build the navigation in this file and not in the home page, because the navbar will be common to all the pages that we display in our app, right? If we put it in the home page, then it won't be available to all of the pages, and then for each individual page, we would have to add the navbar. But if we put it here, it'll be available to all of the pages that we create. All right. So let's go ahead and add the navbar. Now, first thing I want to do before that is I want to change the title. I want to call this My Recipes. So if I go here and I reload this page, it's going to now say My Recipes instead of Workspace. Great. Now for the navbar, you want to use bootstrap styling, right? If you want a different navbar, I would say check out all of the options they have here, but I'm going to use a specific one. Now from here on in, I'm going to pick up the pace a little bit because I'm just going to be typing in bootstrap and CSS, and Since this is a Rails course, we don't want to spend too much time on it. So follow along. Feel free to create your own one, but follow along. So header class, navbar fixed, top, navbar default. Then I want a div class container. If you want to learn about any of these classes that I'm entering in here, feel free. These are all bootstrap, so you can just read about them in the Get Bootstrap site. Container is very cool. It basically moves things around and gives some spacing and makes it look good. So it basically contains the content of whatever you put in the container. So I'm going to put in a logo. So this is opening of Ruby tag. So left arrow %sign equals, and then link to my recipes. Now, how the link to works is you're basically saying create a link, show it as my recipes, and then whatever you put here will show up, will be the path that link takes you to. So right now we don't have a link for it that we want it to go to, so we're just going to leave it as empty. Okay. And then in Rails, to give it a class, to give it a bootstrap or any class, you basically say class : and then put in the class name. So we want a button, large button, actually LG button success, and we want to give it an ID. Now again, this is CSS, so ID is basically if you want to reference a tag once in your page, you basically give it an ID and you call it by using a hashtag and then the ID name. But if you want to use it multiple times, then you use a class. Okay, so we're gonna use the logo. We're gonna call the logo just once, so we're just gonna give it an ID. Now let's go ahead and save this. All right, great. So we have a nav bar, and it's saying my recipes. All right. Now we're going to add the links. So we're gonna leave the links inside the container. So let's go ahead and do div class nav item. Now nav item isn't defined yet, but we're gonna add some styling to that later on. So I'm just naming it at this time. So again, link to, we don't know what this link is, so I'm just gonna call it link 1 for now. Leave it empty. Class button default button warning. Okay. What did I do wrong here? Oh, okay. Missed that. All right. So now I'm gonna just copy this over a couple of times. I'm gonna increase the space here a little bit. Okay, so I have the 3 links. So let's see what that looks like. All right, the links are there. There's something wrong with the styling because we want it here. So we're gonna start adding the styling for this. So first thing I want to do, I want to copy this little bit of code over here. Now you can play around with the navbar. See over here, this navbar color. This is navbar default, and then there is navbar inverse, which is basically black. But Bootstrap site and other places, you can basically look around for changes to this, how you can change the default, right? So I wanted a different color, so it kind of stands out. And so I want to add that to pull up the custom css.scss file, because this is where we're going to add all our styling. And then on top, I'm going to paste this over here. I'm changing some settings here. I'm basically changing the color of the navbar. And so you can basically go ahead and copy this, or you can look around, or you can keep it in default. But I want this because I want a different color for the navbar. I want something uncommon so it kind of stands out. So let's see. Whoops. We seem to have a bit of a problem here. All right, so I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I think this may be because of the auto prefixer. I'm not sure, but I've never used that gem before, or used it when I was installing Bootstrap. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove that gem and see if this issue goes away. Okay, so I'm gonna shut down the server. Let's go back to our gem file. Remove this gem. Now this, I'm totally guessing over here, but I've never seen that problem before, and I've never used auto prefixer, so hopefully this solves it. If we go back, so since I changed the gem file, I'll just do bundle install. Okay, now in the custom CSS, SCSS, this looks all good. All right, so let's try this again. Oh, whoops, our server is no longer running because I shut it down. So let me run the server. Okay, it's working. All right, great. So this is the color that I wanted. It kind of stands out. It's not the norm. It's not a black or a nice looking light gray. This is the color I wanted. All right, great. Now let's add some styling to these things, the logo and the links, to make them look the way we want. All right. So we're gonna add that over here. Logo first. We'll add some margin top, 10 pixels. Margin bottom, 10 pixels. Float left. Margin right, 10 pixels. Font size 2 EM. Color. I want the logo to show all uppercase, so text transform uppercase. Letter spacing -1 pixel. Padding top 9 pixel. Font weight bold. All right, let's see what that did to our logo. Actually, let me add something else here. So we can actually nest this because we're using Sass, but I'm just gonna keep it separate to keep things simple for now. text decoration, none. All right, let's see what that did. Okay, it looks much better. Now let's deal with these links. Actually, one thing I want to mention, our hello world has disappeared, if you notice. What's happening is it's behind this nav bar. So I'm gonna add some, it's actually by design. So I'm gonna refer to that. If you go to the application HTML ERB file, right here it says body. So I'm gonna refer to it as the body tag. Padding top 80 pixels. Okay, there it is, it's back.